Welcome to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them, and where the nonprofit and the profit communities intersect to make Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. KC Cares is proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. Law firms are busy places, whether they're handling corporate litigation, high-profile personal injury or criminal cases, mergers and acquisitions, or family law issues. People are really busy between the attorneys and the paralegals and all the support staff. But there's another side to these legal eagles, being engaged in helping the community. And today we have an organization, a law firm that's doing just that. It's the Edelman Thompson Law Firm, and we're going to talk about their charitable foundation. And we're welcoming James Thompson, who's a founding partner. Welcome, James.
Welcome, Ruth. Thank you very much. It's great that you could have us on today. We're looking forward to visiting with you a bit.
And Shannon Wallace, the marketing director behind this big law firm that many people may know you all from a little bit of television. I was so excited to meet the man behind the camera of those commercials that I always see. So it's so great. It's so great to have you all. Well, let's talk a little bit at first about the firm itself. What you all are focused on in terms of as a business.
Sure. The firm started in 1994, so we've been around the block a few years now. Ron Edelman and I started the firm back then, just the two of us. We had done primarily insurance defense work, representing insurance companies when their insureds were sued, and at least to both of us and our background, that wasn't as rewarding a career as we had hoped in terms of having a little larger, compassionate side to things. So we made both of us made a decision over about a year to go out on our own and start representing people who were injured either in basic personal injury things like auto accidents, but also in medical device litigation, and for some time I did a lot of asbestos litigation where people had gotten sick because of exposure to toxic substances and things like that. And currently the firm's business mix it's all exclusively personal injury of one kind or another. So we don't represent insurance companies. We don't represent corporations. We represent people. Which is where I think Ron and I have really always wanted to end up. So it's gone from just the two of us in a small office down on the plaza to a much larger firm, one of the larger firms in Kansas City, certainly one of the larger firms doing personal injury in Kansas City. So it's been a rewarding journey, and we still love what we do.
Well, I know when I drive downtown on the I-35 loop, you can't miss the building, that's for sure. And I bet the growth that you've seen over the years is incredible. I love the fact that you are working with people. Let's bring Shannon in. Shannon, I thought law firms were just their lawyers and the people behind them who do the research. So what's a marketing person doing with a law firm?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, especially in this day and age, my main goal is just to connect the folks that, as James was describing, that need to find an attorney that genuinely cares about their needs. That's part of my job, is to make Edelman and Thompson at the forefront, and to make people aware of us, and, to make it as easy as possible to get a hold of an attorney when they most need one. So there's a lot of marketing and community outreach that goes into, I feel like, working at a law firm. So definitely more than I was aware previously. So I've learned a lot since working here. And I think marketing is a big component of what we do. Prior to even my working here, I know that Ron and James have had commercials that have been on television for a long time. I'm sure many of the folks listening have heard those, but we're trying to do more and more to just continue to connect with people and to make people aware of all the great things that we're doing here.
That's wonderful. And more people know about you. All right, now we're going to switch to beyond talking about just law firm, and we're going to myth bust. So I think, having been married to a lawyer, I can fairly say there is the run of jokes about how lawyers are tough, they're not compassionate, they're going to squeeze money out of you. But that's not been the case for your law firm. You have a foundation. Let's talk a little bit about where that came from. James, why did the firm decide they wanted to get involved in philanthropy?
Well, I think it really goes back to the personal backgrounds of Ron and myself. I mean, both of us came from families that emphasized public service, emphasized community involvement. I actually grew up in the New York area originally. I moved to Kansas City about 37 years ago. But just like Ron, even as kids, we were involved in things. Our parents had us involved in community projects, community awareness, having an understanding of issues, and really understanding that as blessed as we have been, there are so many other people who aren't as blessed, and really at different junctures in their lives need assistance and need care in terms of someone reaching out. So I think it started with both of us having that DNA, so to speak, so that when our business got up and running, we both felt that that was an extremely important part of being a part of this community. We both love Kansas City, and Kansas City has been so good to us. Our clients have been wonderful to us. And so overall, it came from just wanting to give back and carry on kind of what we had been taught as early as our childhoods.
So how far back does the idea of a foundation versus, we can write a check and, just give it personally? I mean, you made this as part of your organization.
Absolutely. Originally, our involvement was both personal involvement and financial involvement in the community. And the financial aspect of that really was writing a check and giving monetarily when we could and when we felt it was appropriate and to assist folks or assist community organizations. And it got to a point where, from a practical standpoint, for instance, with a foundation, you don't have to drain your charitable budget at the end of a year. You can carry it over. It gave us a little more autonomy in terms of how we could assist community organizations and folks in our community. So it made sense in terms of where we were headed and how much larger the giving aspect had become to have some more flexibility. That's really where the idea of it came from obviously tax advisors and legal advisors saying, you'd be better off doing this. It would give you more freedom and an ability to probably broaden the scope of what we could do.
When did you establish then the foundation, and how did you go about it?
Well, I may not be the best person to ask about that. When it was set up, and we talked about the benefits of setting it up, and then there were signatures involved. But in terms of the legal aspect and the filings, that really was beyond me. But I think we set this up about 10 or 12 years ago, is my best recollection. And so it's really worked out very, very well.
So how does the foundation then get its funds? Is it just going down the hallway and asking everybody to kick in? Or how do you go out and ask folks to support what you do? Or maybe you don't go outside.
Well, at this point, most of the funding is through the firm. So the firm, in other words, there's not a fundraising component of the foundation, other than from the firm. So really, there's obviously involvement in people, and we encourage people to get involved. We encourage both our own employees as well as sometimes our clients to get involved in situations and opportunities to help in the community, whether they be walks or harvesters or other aspects of our footprint. So, but from a monetary standpoint, it's funded at least currently 100% by the firm.
Well, thank you on behalf of all the organizations you help. We'll go dive deeper into some of those organizations and how you make those decisions. Shannon, what's your role with the foundation? How are you involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So because, the attorneys that work here are so busy with, practicing law, where I come in is I am the, pretty much the direct point of contact for the organizations that we work with. So when there are charities and different groups from the Kansas City community that reach out to us, whether there are, longstanding partners, similar Harvesters, for one, is one of our longer standing partners. Or if it's a new organization that we haven't worked with in the past, I am responsible for communicating with those individuals, listening to their cause and what types of different things that they're trying to find funding for, or different events that they're looking to find support for. And I speak with those individuals and learn a little bit more about what they're trying to do. And then from there, I work with Ron and James to kind of determine what our involvement will be, whether it is a financial, sponsorship or something like that, or if it's, just even kind of helping to raise awareness across our own channels for an organization, especially some of those smaller organizations, just kind of getting the word out for those. That's definitely where I come in, because I do manage our marketing channels as well. We're able to really connect with those nonprofits in the area on social media to just kind of, use our assets that way as well, too, to support them.
Well, they've got somebody with a whole lot of energy behind that whole thing. That's just great. James, I wanted to take us down the road to talk about how you make decisions on what you're going to support. There is so much out there of, organizations doing good work. So how do you put a lens on that?
Well, some of it actually, some of the organizations are in some ways born from relationships we have with our clients. For instance, we've had situations where clients have had very significant personal tragedy in their lives, and they've been able to at least hold some of the folks that may be responsible for that tragedy, legally responsible, and taken some of what they have recovered from a monetary standpoint and started organizations to help people. I don't really want to walk into a lot of the details of that and what organizations those are, but so sometimes there's an actual connection that arises out of our business where clients have chosen to really try to give back and make a difference, usually from a safety standpoint, whether it be child welfare in terms of safety in the home or in other aspects. They themselves have started foundations. They themselves have started organizations, and so that's kind of an easy connection. In other situations, it's really a function of working with Shannon and Ron, and also developing a relationship with, whether it be harvesters, whether it be Royals Charities. What we don't want to be is in a situation, and I think a lot of foundations probably agree with this, we don't want to be just writing a check. We want a connection. We want a situation very often that allows either our clients or our employees to become involved. It used to be earlier on, we would try to do social events and things like that with our employees, and not that we don't still do that from a team building standpoint, but we have found actually that the most significant team building where everyone, really feels good about things is when we do things with a charitable organization. Again, whether it be Harvesters is a great example. I mean, it's just such a great organization, but it makes it very easy to have people actually hands-on involved. And that makes a huge difference in terms of building a team atmosphere within the firm, so I don't need to go on, but there's that intangible that's way beyond the monetary component that really enhances even our business internally based by participating with outside organizations.
So it sounds like you really like it when there's an opportunity for the whole Edelman Thompson team to become involved, engaged.
Absolutely. And sometimes we've brought those things in-house, and sometimes we go out to a site or a facility for a day and participate with that organization in hands-on helping, as opposed to being done when you drop your pen after putting your signature on a check.
Getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
Getting your hands dirty. I think, most of us really want to feel that there's that connection. There's the connection between what we're doing and the impact that it can have.
Shannon, I'm going to throw this hardball at you. Okay, it's a pandemic that we've been living through. It's been a really fun ride for a whole bunch of people. How has the foundation pivoted, or how did you manage that in this year that still a lot of organizations needed a lot of help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, I think, a challenge, not just for us, but for, I think, so many organizations in the community. Whereas I think on our end, we just found that it was even more important to be involved and to show these organizations support. So we were basically just kind of impacted by the way that the organizations were impacted. So when some of the different health organizations that we support, they typically run a variety of different walks and run events that are fundraising events in person throughout the year, whereas in 2020, they were not able to do so. So that directly impacts their funding, that directly impacts people's awareness, because there aren't these large scale events taking place in the community. So a lot of those organizations took, a big hit in terms of what they were able to raise with their funds. Some of them were able to make their event a virtual version of their event. So I think that I applaud all the different nonprofits throughout Kansas City that were able to, pivot exactly like you say, and make the best of a situation that was difficult on all of us. I certainly was impressed in seeing that. And I think that, I was very glad that we were able to still contribute in that way, probably on a year that it was needed the most, particularly, with Harvesters Community Food Bank. There were families facing food insecurity that never had dealt with that issue before. So Harvesters was seeing, new numbers of people coming through that needed support. So we, felt very inclined to want to be able to continue to, value that partnership and contribute to that organization through this year, as well as, other past years.
Has the pandemic changed in any way the lens the foundation has, or how maybe you operate?
I think that as Shannon kind of alluded to, what the pandemic has done is kind of opened up needs that were always there, but not as great, and new people coming in who need assistance. So I think what the pandemic has done is there probably, if we were to go back and look at it, there's a slight shift from our standpoint to organizations that are providing basic necessities and basic needs, and hopefully that will not be a permanent shift. But I think in terms of resources, we've tried to address kind of the most basic needs that have come up through this pandemic, whether it be food insecurity, or clothing or other areas. So if there has been a change, that's been it. The other thing is I think in some situations we've tried to up our financial contribution because, as Shannon said, these organizations, as creative as they have been to try to make that kind of paradigm shift, it's really hurt them from a funding standpoint. You're not going to, a virtual walk is in some situations, not always, isn't going to be as financially beneficial to the organization as a real walk. So there's we've tried to fill in some of the gap there in some of these organizations.
Well, in having some conversation with some other nonprofits over the course of several months, what we're hearing is that demand has gone up, and while things are slowly changing, hopefully for the better, a lot of that demand is continuing. That struggle for a lot of people is still going to be there. Tell us a little about your employees and their involvement with your activities. I think it's an interesting relationship. They're the bosses, and then there are people who report to bosses. So how about that recruitment and that involvement? And maybe you have motivators that others can learn from.
Well, I think that, and I'll certainly, I want Shannon to visit with you on this as well. But we have an absolute great group of employees. We're probably not. If you're looking for someone with the most creative ways to organize and creative ways of getting people involved, we really haven't had to do that, at least within our own staff community and our own employees. They are a great group of people who, when given the opportunity, and the opportunities have been a little less during the pandemic because of the way things have changed. But certainly prior to the pandemic, we never had any shortage of participation, which is wonderful. And, just seeing people out in an environment other than the office, joking, laughing, feeling like they're making a difference has always been just really, in some ways, my favorite aspect of being involved and having the foundation involved, is seeing how our employees and very often our clients act and how important giving is to all of them. So that's a long-winded way of saying we haven't come up with any creative motivational strategies necessarily because we haven't needed to. But hopefully we can expand participation. And one of the things I'd like to do, and with Shannon's help, is maybe try to find ways to broaden our clients' involvement, because we have such a large client base now after 25 years or so, actually more than that now, 27 years, I think. It's a massive client base that Shannon helps us keep in contact with. So I think including them more when things open up a bit and giving them a platform and an avenue to participate is a goal that probably we should be moving on.
Shannon, you've got a big job there to make those connections and decide, what's the right project, what will resonate with bringing clients in to be part of a whole different relationship, I would think.
Right. I think, though, as James was saying, it is a big job, but I think it's also, a job that, because we work with such truly wonderful people and that are compassionate and that truly care. And I think, just working in Kansas City, I've not always worked or lived in Kansas City, but I feel like particularly here in this area, people genuinely do care very much about this community, and people are proud to say that they're from Kansas City. And I think that translates to wanting to be involved and wanting to give back as well. So while yes, it's definitely a big task to, try and get folks involved and just to make people aware of all the different things that are going on and different opportunities to give back. I think that the community that we live in does make it a little bit easier because people are quite engaged already and quite willing to get involved where they're able to.
I don't want to lose sight of some of the great things that you all have done in the community. And I wanted to go ahead and let you have a moment to talk about what you've done with Royals Charities. Can you elaborate? I mean, you've helped raise significant funds for that organization.
Yes, absolutely. So, the Royals Charities is one of our longstanding partnerships that I know we are very proud to be involved with. They do wonderful work. And I think with Royals Charities, what they do a wonderful job of not just giving back to one specific area within the community. They, contribute to children's charities, to charities that are dedicated to education, to youth sports and military families. So they definitely, spread their efforts across a wide variety of great causes. So that's one of the reasons too that I know that we're drawn to them. One of the biggest aspects of our partnership with the Royals is that we are sponsors of the 50/50 raffle. So that, is something that if you've been to a Royals game, or even if you haven't, you've probably heard of the 50/50 raffle. But particularly this year, the Royals have done a great job with changing ways that people can get involved. Because the stadium is at reduced capacity, folks can participate in the 50/50 raffle from home if they would like to by accessing the MLB Ballpark app on their phone. So that's another great way that, if individuals want to get involved and donate to that overall jackpot for that raffle, a great portion of those proceeds goes toward one of the, great charities that the Royals charities do support. So we definitely advocate for that and encourage folks, if they want to get involved themselves in a really fun way that is fun on a personal level as well, too. They can certainly access that, whether they're going to the games in person this year or whether they're watching from home. So that's definitely a great way to get involved.
And the Royals are doing great so far. We're off to a good start. It's a positive way. Well, that's really a way to spread your dollar, so to speak. What, having, this foundation and having done this for a while, particularly, any tips or suggestions for other organizations that might consider giving back in the community now that you've been doing it a while?
Sure. I think it's an absolute win-win. From a business standpoint, it's helpful. Obviously, it is putting a face out there that you do care. And I think, as Shannon said, Kansas Cityans are a community of care, people who do care. And I think they want to see others who care. So when you have the opportunity and the platform to basically, and in some ways, the publicity to show that face and pay it forward, so to speak, it's a good thing to do from a business standpoint. And also, it's an extremely good thing to do from a moral standpoint. And I think businesses that take positions and take a strong stand in the community in terms of being a part of that community, not just taking out of that community, I can't see a downside to the business in participating in that way. So I would encourage any business that, and you don't have to wait until you think you're at a size where you can make a massive difference all at once. If I had to do it all over again, we probably would have started a foundation earlier than we did. And I would encourage others to do that because it gives an opportunity. Like I said, by having a foundation, you have a little more autonomy, a little more freedom in terms of how that money can be spent and when it can be spent. I would encourage other businesses who haven't thought of going down that route to do it. It's not hard. At least it wasn't hard for me, but that's because maybe I didn't understand the workings of it. But I think it's extremely important. And as I said at the start, it's a win-win. It really is a win for the organization. It's a win for the camaraderie and team building within the organization. And obviously it's a win for the community. And it's a good face to have out there.
Shannon, how about from your perspective, getting to do the back end stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, both professionally and personally, it is just, you learn so much about just the wealth of organizations that are in our area. So I think it's absolutely, worthwhile. Like James said, it is a win-win. There's no downside. And while it might be some added work to your plate, it's work that is good to do and it is meaningful. So it definitely just makes you feel like you are a part of something greater. So I would absolutely recommend, anyone who's involved in marketing for a business of any kind, a corporate business, if you're able to, introduce a nonprofit component and just get involved, with community outreach, I think that there is no downside at all whatsoever. I think it just, from a marketing and advertising standpoint, also puts your business on the forefront. You just start, that much more in tune with your own community.
Well, thank you both for spending time with us and sharing with us what your foundation does, being part of Kansas City. I loved what James said, show that KC cares. Thanks for that little plug. That was wonderful. And that's what we're about, is trying to share what great people like you are doing to make Kansas City the great place it is to live, work, and play. Again, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story.
Well, thank you so much, Ruth, for having us.
Thank you so much.
You bet. And thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit, and we're proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or Underwriting Opportunities, please visit our website at kccaresonline.org and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And don't forget, you can catch us on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Thank you for listening and watching KC Cares.